welcome back to Bar One Betting's League of Ireland Lowdown. You're with myself, Kieran Burke, and with Shane Keegan. Of course, the new Premier League season in England only a couple of days away as well. So do know our new enhanced online sign-up offer. That's Bet10. Get €70 in free bets when you open a Bar One Betting online account today. Stake €10 or more on your first online bet at odds of evens or greater, and you'll get €50 worth of free bets to use on the sportsbook, a free €10 in-play bet, and a free €10 bet builder. And that's available when you open an online account with us today. Gambling for over 18s only. See gamblingcare.ie. But Shane, back in the world of the League of Ireland, there's been lots happening over the last few days. A particularly bad week for Shamrock Rovers. We spoke about the war of words last week between Stephen Bradley and Kieran Kilduff, but ever since those comments from Brad, things have they've gone south rapidly for Shamrock Rovers, hammered in the Europa League, out of the Europa League, and out of the FAI Cup now as well.
Yeah, could hardly have been a worse 4 or 5 days for them, really, Kieran, could it? I mean, you couldn't have predicted that result or performance last Thursday night coming. I know they haven't been exactly kind of firing on all cylinders over the course of this season really yet, but when you looked at the first leg and how they should have won the first leg more than 3-1. You know, they were that far better than them in the first leg that there's no way you could have seen such a monumental turnaround. And it wasn't even, Kieran, like it was a game whereby, you know, Rovers, well, listen, the scoreline, you'd want to be fairly unlucky to say that you lost the game 5-1 out of bad luck anyway, but like they were so far second best in the game. It was incredible. I think the Estonian side had, or Latvian Estonian, say it for me.
Albanian,
there we are. I think the Albanian side had a total of 14 shots on target in the match. Just incredible for your keeper to make 9 saves and still see the ball fly past him another 5 times is utterly ridiculous.
And they had a man sent off before half time as well.
Just going to come to it. I mean, listen, and to be fair, well, not to be fair, he could hardly say otherwise, but Stephen Bradley has been in complete agreement. I'm pretty sure that it's their worst performance in his tenure, without a doubt. Worst performance in his tenure. And look, they are lucky that they have the safety net of not being gone from Europe. I think they've got a difficult one coming up, though. I do. Like, Cups are sitting top of the league in Finland at the moment. They've only lost 2 games all season. They look to be a decent side. I think this is very much a toss of a coin one. And given how poor Rovers, I mean, atrociously poor Rovers away form has been in Europe, there's massive pressure on them to deliver this Thursday night in the first game, because you couldn't have any faith in them going away from home and doing the business based on what we've seen. So if we were to take it that if you were to take it that they lose away from home, hopefully by only 1 goal, it means they've got to go and win the home leg by 2 goals plus this Thursday night to put themselves in the driving seat. And then to follow it up on Sunday, you know, it looked like they had flushed it out of the system and got back on the horse when you're 2-0 up and cruising. And again, just completely and utterly all unravels. Now, I think there were, there's plenty of debate over, was it a penalty, wasn't it a penalty? I thought it was soft. So it did, but they shouldn't have found themselves in that position. They should have been able to continue to turn the screw and keep Pats at arm's length. They gave them a sniff. Pats got their gander up and kicked on, and without a doubt were the better side in extra time. There really only looked to be one side going to win it in extra time, really. So they've just lost all shape and form of momentum and positivity. Listen, Kieran, every other club in the League of Ireland would be crying out for the crisis that Shamrock Rovers are in at the moment. Top of the table and still in Europe. That's the crisis that they find themselves in. But by their own lofty standards that they've set for themselves over the last few years, it has been a very, very disappointing week.
I suppose, look, if they come through the European tie, get into the league phase, win the league, you look back at it again, say it's another successful season. It's not exactly a 50-50 tie, but it's not far off. I'm just looking at the market here for 2 qualified Shamrock Rovers and Cups. Shamrock Rovers are 17-20 and Cups are 4-5. So Rovers are the slight favourites, but it's almost a flip of a coin tie, really.
Yeah, that sounds about right by the looks of things and by the sounds of things. Yeah, and the problem is for whatever about for punters, but for Shamrock Rovers fans it's just that level of inconsistency that you wouldn't associate with them. You just, like, if Rovers if Rovers are on it, and this is the big upside for them, if Rovers are on it and play to their best, then I think, I won't say they'll get through comfortably, but I'd be very surprised if they played very well and still found themselves coming out on the wrong side of it over 2 games. The problem is you just can't have any faith at the moment in them playing very well. They are capable, as we see, of still being excellent at times, but it's just that lack of consistency at the moment that will have Rovers fans very worried. I mean, you've said if they win the league, they will win the league. I can't see them capitulating to that extent. So everything really rests on the next 10 days. Like the whole weighing up of their season at the end of the season is now completely dependent on whether or not they get through to the group stages of the conference.
I mean, Derry City knocked this Cups team out of Europe a few years ago, but since then they seem to have kicked on. They were in the league phase of the Conference League last season, and they actually got to the knockout playoff round as it is now. But they took a point off Crystal Palace during the league phase. They took a point off a Swiss side. They beat Slovan Bratislava. They got a point against Breidablik. They got a point against Drita. So they look like they're a fairly solid European outfit. Just looking at their qualifier results so far this year, they did get through. They just scraped through against a North Macedonian side. They were comfortably beaten by Saba Baku from Azerbaijan, and then they were narrowly beaten by a team from Romania in the last round of the Europa League. So obviously you look at that league phase form from last season, it's quite strong. So again, it's not going to be an easy tie at all for Shamrock Rovers.
No, definitely not. And look, I'm not professing to be an expert on them by any stretch. I'm basically just doing the same as you've done, which is having a look at those results and trying to get a gauge on them based on all of that. I actually just had one eye on them at the weekend as well, and they went 1-0 down inside 2 minutes at the weekend, and I was going, oh Jesus, if they suffered defeat in this one, it might be a little bit of a blow to them, but they did come back and win that game 2-1 in their league. As I said, they've only lost 2 games all season in the league, so there does seem to be a level of consistency that they have that I'm not sure off the top of my head. Kieran, maybe you can see it. How many games have Rovers lost domestically this year? It seems like a lot more than 2, so it does for sure. But yeah, look, not going to be a simple one for them.
Yeah, 5 league defeats so far this season for Shamrock Rovers, and obviously, as we said, that defeat in the FAI Cup to St. Pat's at the weekend. Now, just before we started recording, the draw did take place for the quarterfinals, and obviously 8 Premier Division teams left, and it looks wide open even before the draw, but it looks even more open now. Waterford will take on Sligo Rovers, Drogheda United will take on Galway, Derry City will host Dundalk, and St. Pat's against Bohs. I think a few sceptics, including myself, thought maybe they might be in the old hot and cold ball section and kept apart, but no, they meet in the quarterfinals. So who's your favourite from here, Shane?
Oh, listen. Well, first I'd say it's an outstanding draw for the bottom half of the table sides. Essentially, you've got 4 teams in the hat that are in the top half of the table, and 4 that are in the bottom half of the table, and they've all drawn each other. The 4 in the top half are facing off against each other. The 4 in the bottom half are facing off against each other. So, they're brilliantly poised, absolutely brilliantly poised. All 4 ties you do very well to call a winner with any level of confidence. But you've now got, as we say, Watford, Sligo, Drogheda, Galway. 2 of those teams are going to find themselves in an FAI Cup semi-final. Now, in one sense, that's brilliant, Kieran, because any club wants to see their side in an FAI Cup semi-final. But how do you balance that with the relegation scrap that all 4 of those sides also currently find themselves in? What are you prioritising? Our players, getting excited about an FAI Cup run and an appearance at the Aviva and maybe taking their eye off the ball in the league? So the 4 managers involved there have got a challenge in terms of getting the balance right. Derry and Dundalk will be reasonably happy to have drawn each other as well, I think, particularly Derry with getting the home tie. But yeah, look, the obvious one is Pats Bohs. I mean, if Pats are going to win the FAI Cup, they're going to have to do it the hard way, aren't they? Take out Rovers and then take out Bohs, and that only gets you to a semi-final. Look, it's hard to get. They've let us down so many times that you're loath to get too carried away with Pats too early. But that was a terrific comeback and result for them on Sunday. And Jesus, Kieran, if they can't build a bit of momentum on the back of something like that, they'll never get a bit of momentum going, to be honest. And yeah, before the draw was made, it's just I think the whole Bowes, Dalymount, and all of that. I was kind of favouring Bowes as my potential favourites to go and win it out from here. The fact that they've drawn Pats now so early, and for Pats to get that home advantage, I'm probably swinging. I'm probably swinging in the Pats direction. And look, Stephen has a fair old FAI Cup pedigree as well, so he has that for sure. So yeah, I'd probably just be leaning now towards Pats coming out on top of that tie, and therefore making them favourites to go all the way in. Well, yeah.
I'll tell you, it's bad news, the draw, though, for the likes of Dundalk, Shelbourne, Derry, the teams that are maybe chasing that fourth spot in the league, because really all you've got left now is Pats out of the top three that can win it. So you're either the likes of Dundalk will have to go and win the cup to be sure of Europe, or they're going to have to hope the Pats win it and they cling on to fourth. So it was a bad draw for those clubs from that regard.
I actually hadn't thought of that perspective. You're bang on. Yeah, 100%. They'll be the ones who'll be most disappointed with the draw, without a doubt. I mean, it does look like I would be surprised to see Derry get themselves back in the picture there. So it does look like a straight shootout between Dundalk and Shells as to who could get that fourth spot. Look, Dundalk will have two bites of the cherry. Go and win the bloody thing yourselves, or hope the Pats can do you a favour. Whereas, yeah, a lot of Shells fans are now going to find themselves in the semi-final and final to be big fans of Pats and Bowes. Pats are.
Yeah, so that's the FAI Cup. Those ties are coming up in early September, I believe. We will focus on the league action coming up this weekend, Shane, and we'll start with the game between Drogheda and St. Patrick's Athletic. That's on Friday night.
Yeah, look, Pats have been comprehensively the better side when on all three occasions when these two teams have met this season. And when, as I say, you ally that to the fact that they, such an outstanding comeback and result for them on Sunday. Drogheda have shown again, every time you start to write them off, they bounce back a bit. I think they're unbeaten in the league across their last four. So that's
three draws though, and they've slipped to second from bottom. Are you worried about them?
Actually, you'd have to be. Yeah, no, listen, you'd have to be. That's for sure. You just, it's Waterford have such momentum that it's almost impossible not to see Waterford continuing that through for the remainder of the season. They don't even have to be as good as they've been over the last 6 weeks. If just any semblance of keeping that form in place should be enough to get them out of there. I actually could see Waterford finishing ahead of Galway as well at this point. So yeah, that removes, I suppose in my head, removes one of the teams that Drogheda would be looking to try and finish ahead of. So yeah, for Drogheda, for me, to get themselves out of it, can they go and finish ahead of Galway? And I think that's a tough ask because, John will have them kind of fairly well battle hardened as well. Look, the 6 point gap to Sligo in last, I think they certainly should be able to maintain that and try and give themselves a fighting chance in the playoff. But at this stage, it does look likely that they could be heading for the promotion relegation playoff. Yeah.
As you've pointed out there, Drogheda's record against Pats in recent times is very poor. I'm just going back here to see when the last time to beat them was. I think you have to go back to 2023. So Pats with a very dominant record in this fixture. Look, we've touched on it at times on this podcast. You can never really be certain of Pats, but need to be winning this if they want to give themselves any chance.
Yeah. One like the big time. And as I said, look, I can't see them, even if they did garner a bit of momentum, I can't see them reeling Rovers back in. I think they've missed their opportunity over the last 4 weeks thereabouts to make a proper fist of it. But if they want to build that bit of momentum, get the atmosphere around the ground back in a good way, and really get the support base behind them heading into that Bowes game, I think that's the big thing now for them over the next couple of weeks. And a victory against Drogheda would help start to build that momentum.
Are we locking you in for a Pats win here?
Yep.
Okay, that's perfect. Let's move on then. Dundalk against Galway. Dundalk will be celebrating 100 years in the League of Ireland on Friday, so it'll be a big occasion at Oriel. There's a few events going on around the game. Will they be able to cap it all off with a win?
Yeah, look, we've spoken about their struggles and losing the quality that they've lost, and how that was inevitably going to affect them. And it is. Look, we're not going to see the same Dundalk between now and the end of the season that we saw over the first half. I think that's for sure. Look, a fairly kind of routine victory for them over the weekend in the FAI Cup. Look, they're playing against an amateur side in Castlebar Celtic, but still, 8 goals and such a comprehensive performance and scoreline will help to build that momentum and try and get things back moving in the right direction. Also, I think they've done reasonably well, I think, against Galway this year. Yeah, I think this is one. Galway, we've spoken about them, the struggles, they are right down there. They'll be eyeing it as this is definitely being a game that they can take something from, but I don't know. I think Dundalk might just have find a little bit of form and have a little bit too much for the minute.
Galway taking the penalties by First Division side Bray in the Cup as well last week, so that's probably taken a bit out of the legs. Dundalk, as you said, had a routine win. They were able to rotate some of their players. The only setback for them there was losing Danny Mullen to injury, but you're right, they've got a good record this season against Galway. They've won the last 2 against them. I talked about it on last week's show. I was at Dundalk's game in Tala a couple of weeks ago, and they played extremely well. It's just the goals they're giving away is killing them. But they're scoring plenty of goals, but they're just leaking some really, really bad ones at the moment. Galway probably going back to form a little bit in the last few weeks, not scoring a whole pile of goals. So if Dundalk are going to grind out a win, this is probably as good a time as any.
Yeah, no, I'd agree with all of that, and particularly your reference to their performance against Shamrock Rovers. Obviously we had all the fireworks that followed on the back of that game, and I think all those fireworks probably did kind of overshadow maybe the actual game itself. And when you do look back at that game, yeah, that was a spirited performance by Dundalk. And as I say, you follow that up then with an 8-0 win over Castlebar Celtic. For a team that's struggling for goals, that's exactly what they needed. A nice soft one to bang in a load of goals and get a bit of confidence back. And I think they can carry that into this one and edge what will probably be a tight game in terms of not a whole lot between the sides. They are 2 teams that there has been a decent amount of goals between them in most of the games they've played this year, even though they would have a reputation for maybe being shy on goals. But yeah, I do think Dundalk might have enough.
Okay, we'll lock you in for the home win there. Moving along then, we've got Bohemians against Derry City.
Yeah, look, where do you go in terms of someone up there over the last while? It's certainly been all of the off the field stuff that has detracted from anything that's going on the field. Back-to-back wins, if you do take it back to what's happening on the field, they have got back-to-back wins. There hasn't been too many times this season. I would think that Derry have managed back-to-back wins. Granted,
they weren't overly convincing against UCD, though, it has to be said.
No. And I was going to say and granted that one of those 2 wins was against the First Division side as well. But look, still nonetheless, I'm sure Donnelly will be spinning it as, trying to build them a bit of momentum and trying to get things going in the right direction again. But I don't know. I would still struggle to get behind Derry in any capacity over the next while. Look, probably the best result of Tiernan's season was their win against Bohemians. Only a couple of months ago, I'd say, wasn't it? They beat them comprehensively, but I don't know. I just would lack faith in them at the moment. And
I think that was when Bows were going on that little spell where did they go 7 or 8 without a win at the time.
Yeah. And look, we've spoken about that before as well, Bows. They certainly are streaky in that sense, so they are for sure. But their form of recent, they'll be disappointed with the Waterford result, but Waterford just seem to be burying everybody who comes at them at the moment. And prior to that, they had, and
it was sandwiched in the middle of a European tie as well.
Yeah. And listen, it's with Europe removed now, Bows have to kick on and have to show, Bows and Pats now, Kieran, are pretty much in identical situations, aren't they? Like, no European football to detract for either of them between now and the end of the season, battling it out for which of them finishes second, third. I know that mightn't seem huge in the grand scheme of things, and then eyeing each other up for this upcoming FAI Cup game as well. There's a fascinating battle to see which of those 2 teams is going to be happier with their season come the end. But for the moment, I'm going to go with that they'll have enough in this one.
Yeah, I mean, I saw Bows obviously beat Longford in the cup on Sunday, and I thought going up there, Longford have a real chance of giving them a rattle. But then when you actually looked at the Bows team that was put out, I mean, we probably underestimate how strong that Bows squad is. There's a lot of talk about Rovers and Pats and Derry having unbelievably strong squads. But if you look at the Bows team that played the other day, Colin Whelan scored 2 fabulous goals. Ross Tierney was on the pitch. Dawson Devoy. Diallo ran the game from the midfield. You got Rooney there as well. They've just got a lot of quality. The likes of Connor Parsons came off the bench. So it is a very strong. Vaughan
Yeah,
as well, yeah, scored a great goal too. It is a strong Bows squad. So yeah, I think I'd side with you here and go with a Bows win.
Yeah. No, look, as I say, it's just with Derry, it's just so hard to make an argument for them. And look, maybe if they pick up another one or two positive results, we might be singing a different tune in the next while. It's going to be so interesting to see what they do from a managerial perspective there. I have heard a couple of different, whispers here and there over different people that they've spoken to, but I don't think there is a grand plan at the moment, Kieran. I think they're kind of fumbling around in the dark a little bit at the moment.
And you never know when the next social media storm is around the corner as well. So that can't be helpful for Mark Connolly. But we'll go with a Bows win there. And then there's a huge game on Friday night at the showground, Sligo Rovers against Waterford. It's kind of entering last chance saloon territory for Sligo now, isn't it?
Sure it is very much a 6 point gap after opening up now between themselves and the two above them. I think Darren Purse has come in there. I would have thought he's come in there with, a reasonably kind of longish term aim of, you might not be able to pull off the great escape, and we're not going to run you out of town if that's how it plays out. We're building towards how can we bounce back straight away. Obviously, there's been a lot of talk over their ownership structure and potential for that ownership structure changing over the next few months. It'll be interesting to see what way that plays out. I think the club have handled that about as well as they could have. I thought the press release was quite impressive in the Q&A manner that they put the press release out there. It's no guarantee that fans will favour the side of the vote that they're kind of trying to steer them towards, but I think they've done as much as they could have. That could have reasonably been asked of them in terms of keeping the support base informed there. So look, it'll be interesting to see what happens there over the next while. But look, swing the attention to Waterford, and I think there's only Shamrock Rovers have picked up more points in the table since the manager came in, since Coughlin came in at Waterford, which is remarkable going considering, we're at the point here, Kieran, where we're borderline writing Sligo off. We had well and truly reached that point at Waterford. Waterford it was taken as an absolute given that
I
Waterford
think there was always a feeling, though, Waterford, that they couldn't be that bad. When you look at a team that had Podge Hammond and Tommy Lonergan in front and they couldn't score a goal for love nor money, people were like, they cannot be this bad. They cannot be cut adrift the way they are. And it took a managerial change to spark something within the dressing room. And we'll never know really what went wrong with John Daly in charge there. But they were massively underperforming.
They were. No, look, as you said, the quality was there. And my take on it was, if a new manager comes in, he has something to work with there. And you know what? if he could get himself into the picture that they're not still relegated with a game or two left, he could pull something off and get them into a relegation promotion playoff spot and stay up that way. But no way would,
No.
even given the ability they have, I still wouldn't have been predicted that they would have just steamrolled everybody for the best part of, must be nearly 2 months at this stage, and essentially now being at a point where with there's more than half a dozen, I suppose, games to go, but they look like they'd be extremely disappointed at this stage if they weren't out of the picture with a game or two to go.
Yeah, 100%. With all of that in mind, Waterford have been priced up as fairly clear favourites here. They're 5-4, Sligo 2-1, the draw 5-2. I was watching bits and pieces of the Sligo Kerry game. I'm not going to try and claim that I watched it all on Saturday evening, but from reading comments online, a lot of people reckon that 4-0 was a very flattering score to Sligo. The Kerry missed some big chances. A couple of decisions didn't go their way as well. So it maybe wasn't as comprehensive of a result as maybe it might appear on paper. Whereas Waterford, they were made to work against Athlone, but both teams into the next round of the Cup. But is this going to be another Waterford win here?
Yeah, it was interesting. He had a right go at them after the game as well, Kieran. I don't know if you saw the Coughlin's interview.
No, I didn't.
After the game. Yeah, he was commenting. Now, listen, it was right out of the psychology playbook, in fairness to him. So it was. He basically said that he'd been on top of the players 24/7 since he'd come in. And that he maybe looked at that week as an opportunity to take the heel off them a little bit and give them a little bit of breathing space and that. and he said his reward for doing so was a completely flat and poor performance. So best of luck to the Waterford players. They know what's coming from here to the end of the season, that's for sure. But no, listen, you can lock me in for a Waterford win there, Kieran.
Okay,
Yeah.
foot back on the throat of the Waterford players this week, so they should respond. We reckon we'll go for a Waterford win there. Right, Shane, that brings us along to your ACCA for this week. You the last time we did a show, you actually put up a win in ACCA as well, so well done. So let's see if we can get another one this time around.
Yeah, exactly. So we'll go with the two that I had most faith there in the Premier Division are Waterford and Pats. No need to go over them again. I think we've outlined why I think the two of those could potentially be good ones. And the First Division is tricky this week, Kieran. It is very tricky this week, to be honest with you. I think there's a lot of reasonably evenly poised games there. So I'm going to go back to the old reliable. I haven't thrown Cork City into too many of them of recent, but listen, it's top of the table against second from bottom. Treaty, to be fair, have shown a little bit better
they have.
of recent than originally earlier in the season. But look, we're all well aware Cork 20 points clear at the top of the table.
They only need another 10 to win it. So yeah,
that's it. And won their last 3 in a row as well, I think. So yeah, just throwing them in there just to give it a little bit of extra value in there.
Lovely. So we're going to put a couple of extra points on this for our customers. St. Pat's, Waterford and Cork City all to win. We're boosting that to 11-2 from 9-2 in Bar One betting shops everywhere. And Shane Keegan's best bet this week will again be boosted online and on the app. And it is...
Yeah, this is one I'm hoping that we might get a half decent price on, because as you say, the perception of Dundalk, given the attacking quality that they've lost, is that maybe they might struggle for goals. Galway notoriously tight and struggle for goals maybe at times, but yet 2 of the 3 games between these two sides this year have produced over 2.5 goals. So whatever it is about each other, it seems to bring goals out in the opposition. I do think Dundalk are the better side here marginally. So I'm going to go with a Dundalk win in a game that features over 2.5 goals.
Yeah, well, look, as I said, Dundalk are scoring them by the bag load, but conceding plenty as well. So yeah, I'd imagine that makes plenty of sense. Dundalk to win and over 2.5 goals. Again, we're going to put a couple of extra points on this. It was 11-8. We'll boost that to 13-8 on the app and online. So there's Shane Keegan's ACCA and best bet for this week. Thanks to Shane as ever. A quick reminder to give the show a follow on Spotify. Just search for the Bar One Betting Podcast. Give us a follow there and you'll get weekly episodes of League of Ireland Lowdown. We didn't do one last week because of the Cup, but we're back to the league now, so plenty of podcasts to come between now and the end of the season. A reminder again to check out that online sign-up offer ahead of the new Premier League season in England. It's bet 10, get €70 in free bets. All the T's and C's, all the details can be found online and on the app. Gambling's for over 18s only. See gamblingcare.ie. But for this week, from myself, Kieran Burke, and from Shane Keegan, thanks for tuning in, and we'll catch you again soon.